Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India. Topic of today's webinar is Every Game is a Frame Game. And we have with us our very eminent speaker for the webinar, Dr. Alexander Schiller, trainer, facilitator, coach at FSU Jena, Germany. On behalf of Vice Chancellor of the University and entire organizing committee, I welcome you, sir. Before inviting our speaker for the session, I would like to give their brief introduction to the audience. Dr. Alexander Schiller is a habilitated chemist and works now as trainer, coach, and facilitator for scientists. He developed innovative academic teaching at LMU Munich, EPF Lausanne, UC Santa Cruz, USA, and University Jena. In addition, he is a certified facilitator and certified advanced coach with the Tyagi Group. His company, Schiller and Mertens, has trained over 11,000 scientists worldwide in hundreds of seminars, coachings, consultings, and lectures since 2011. It's a great pleasure for all of us to have Dr. Alexander Schiller with us. I once again welcome you, sir, in the session, and I now request Dr. Alexander Schiller to start with the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhatia, for the welcoming words, and I welcome to the webinar here. Every game is a frame game. Dream, sleep, night, mattress, pajama, sheet, nap, tired, night, orange, sleepless, blanket, night, snore, pillow. It's always a pleasure to start with these words, and if I could see in a lot more videos, I also expect a lot of surprised faces. What is going on? What's happening here? A lot of people actually will have a question. What does that mean? At the end of this talk, we're gonna look at it again, and I would like now to proceed with my presentation. Do I have slides? Yes, I have some slides for you. I will start them right now. So, 1 second. Every game is a frame game. And I just have to ask you before I start, for example, Toshiko, can you tell me, do you see the slide? And also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
I can see your slides and I can hear you.
Good. Great. So what I would like to share with you is that, yes, as I'm a facilitator with a scientific background, I work with a lot of scientists. Mostly with natural scientists, I have to admit, so this is only a part of the scientific world. Natural scientists, physicists, chemists, biologists, and also physicians, engineers. My background, you already know, chemistry. I played a lot with molecules, and I learned a lot also with playing with molecules. However, I changed my career path because I realized that every problem in science actually does not occur due to scientific problems. Scientific discussions, scientific differences are valuable, are really interesting. The big problems why people, for example, do not publish again with each other, hate each other, make very, very strange decisions on hiring people and all this comes from that quite often scientists do not focus so much on personal development. They focus a lot on scientific development. And it's also necessary, right? They have to really work a lot on that. But this is now important also to not forget that we need to think about also, how do we lead better? How do we communicate better? How do we actually help each other in this situation? And that was the reason why I changed my career from a scientist to a trainer, coach, and facilitator. Now, when you see this picture, then you also might say, oh my God, Alex, why did you change your career? Are you crazy because you are going for an academic pathway? It's a safe and a very prestigious career path. But I said, I love the risk. I love being beginner's mind, right? I love to go on a surfboard here with a suit and try not to fall in. Now, what I would like to share with you is more or less also the messages I would like to convey is that, well, Homo sapiens, Homo faber, Homo ludens, we are people, we love to play. Playing games can be efficient learning. Now comes the first provocative statement. We do not learn from experimental playing only. We only learn from the reflection on our experience. And the reflection is not automatically connected to games. So we can develop reflection by seeing every game as a frame game. For that, this is now not so easy. We need to change our attitude, focus on how do we see games in a different manner. I don't have to tell you, here are the specialists, what are characteristics of games. You can see characteristics of games are conflicts, there is a constraint, right? Competition is in there, more and more collaborative games coming up, contrivance, so it is a sort of, people see it as a game and it's not the reality, and also there's closure in it. But I would like you now to look at the next slide and remember and try to choose one card I'm going to show you. Okay? You have chosen one card. Don't say it. Don't tell it. I will now guess your card while putting it face down. Am I right? Did I guess your card? Hop on the mic or on the chat and share what happened. Did I guess your card?
No.
No, I didn't guess your card. I didn't face it. I did it. Well, I guessed your card while putting it face down. Was that not the case?
Not yet.
Okay, so for Jabaya, yes, you did it for me, right? So put a yes into the chat if I guessed your card, if I turned your card face down. Just wait a little bit into the chat. And the reason why I ask you also to participate in chat, also hopping on the mic, we don't learn from passive reception. We only learn from active participation. So there are some yeses, some nos. Okay, you can see it here in the chat. Okay, yeses are getting more and more about that. Okay, good. Can somebody share with us what happened? Ah, okay, you see it in the chat. This is, all the cards are different. I have to share this with you, so I'm going back to this. Now, in the first slide, I showed you the 6 cards. And let's assume you picked 6 of diamonds, right? Okay, good. In the second slide, people apparently do not see it anymore, the 6 of diamonds. And the conclusion of that, or the first evaluation, inference, is the blue card is my card. But this is a magic trick, right? Because all the cards are changing, right? So it's an assumption. It's an assumption that I guessed your card that I am psychic or magic, right? Now, I stop again, because we don't learn from just playing games like that. We only learn from the reflection on it. Can somebody tell us, or write into the chat, what is a message of this? Take your time, think about it, or if you want to just start talking, switch on the mic and share with us. Here we have in the chat. Here, Dimitri, please say so.
There are several things, not one. The number of objects is different, it's growing up. The color and numbers need to be united in one card and some others. So it is an intellectual work that not of us, for instance, me, was not ready to do immediately. Thank you.
Exactly, right. Sometimes it goes a little bit fast, right? But Dimitri, I cordially invite you to write me an email, and we're going to go and do it again and play with this card game to go it a little bit slowly here also. But look into the chat, and here you can see what people think about. What is the message of this activity? Because the card game is completely irrelevant. What is interesting is what do we learn from it? Now, if you only focus on that, what you're interested in, right? Then also, what is the consequence? You might overlook the bigger picture. We see what we want to see. And my question in the beginning already, I told you, please choose a card. Silently choose a card. And that, what does it with us? Well, it is selecting the card and deselecting the other cards. And that means every time I focus on something, I probably overlook a bigger picture. Now, can you think about next step? Now, where do we overlook bigger pictures when we in the topic of games and frame games? What is a bigger picture we might oversee?
It could be three-dimensional picture.
Okay. Ignoring the others is the beginning of the confirmation bias, right? Okay. So a confirmation bias is interesting. By the way, I love this bias the most. It's one of the most interesting biases. And I will never be able to eradicate it completely. It's always dominating me, and I can only handle it, right? Can you go into detail? What actually is biasing us when we seeing games as frame games?
I'm sorry that only two of us are speaking. Others are sending messages. But still, I want to answer your question. I am missing motivation. It is not just funny things. I'm looking as educator and scientist as you. What is motivation? So I know something about myself. I'm not so fast in remembering and not so sharp in my opinions. It is important things that I start to know about myself because of your exercise. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks a lot. And our biases, in addition here, lie also in our culture and in our poor experiences about that. Now, but the interesting thing about that is that why do we see games as games like that? We can play it, we can understand it. Sometimes we have problems to understand it. Sometimes it's also a question of technical exchange, but what is actually here, the more we focus on one element, the more likely is you miss a bigger picture is. But why do we actually not think also of games in the way of, can I change, for example, something? Can I change a conflict? Can I change constraint and so on? And I would like to do this exercise with you again here is, can you play with the magic tick as a frame game? Can you change, can you think about of using this magic trick in your situation, in your teaching situation, wherever it is, and is it possible that you change something to get another message, for example? So if you have a suggestion, write it into the chat or also hop on the mic and share it. And do not only let Dimitri talk, you can also talk.
I joined a bit late, Alexander. Would you mind asking your question again, please?
Have you played also the card game with these 6 of diamonds also and the bigger picture card game?
No.
No, okay, good. Then it is difficult to actually go and use it in a different manner. We played a card game and I asked the people, how can you use that? How can you change it? How can you maybe change over the rules or maybe also the constraints or maybe also collaborative part to use it for your own purposes?
Ah, okay. So you could hide something under the card that then changes what the player sees when the card is lifted up.
Okay, yeah, exactly, right. So even if you have not played the game, you can even change something about that. And please write me an email. I can send you also this card game, and then you can play it with you again about that. Here also, Dimitri is saying is what is pushing forces to think that or another way of missing. What kind of bigger picture we overlook when we focus on something. Now, I use this kind of card game in a lot of different settings. I use it for PhD students, for example, to remind them it's not only that they have to focus what their PhD supervisor tells them. They also need to think about by themselves. And the more they actually follow the pieces of advice of their supervisor, for example, the more they probably overlook how important it is to develop own ideas. For example, about it. So what I would like to do with you is as an example here is using a very, very simple game. It's a card trick here, by the way. And now going through the world and looking around and seeing every game what is played in a serious manner, maybe also with children, whatever, wherever it is, and think about how can I use that for my own purposes.
So would that be your definition of a frame game? To have a game that you can then adapt for other purposes?
This is my provocative definition of a frame game.
Okay. Good one, yes.
Very good. Great. So I'm going to continue here and do something with you now. Again, we're going to just play around a little bit. So on the next slide, I would like you to read and silently correct the misspelled words for yourself. Give yourself 30 seconds, go through the words, think about how can I correct them silently. Okay, don't get unhappy, please, if you're not yet done with it. You have maybe also worked on some of these words, but I would like you now to think about, please think about a 5-letter word. So what is it? Is it sleep? Why did you think about of another word like scrap or stump or sheep?
I saw the move and changed sleep to sheep.
Okay, good. So just to get a feeling about how many people thought about sleep. So in the chat, yeah, if you have thought about sleep in the second slide, please write it. Say yes or sleep or whatever. Give us a message about how you played it. Let's collect some data, some scientific data. By the way, not everyone is thinking about sleep, right? We have already 2 people, 2 to 1. Yeah, Toshiko, that's also what is then the next thing about that. The next question is, why does it happen? Why do people think about sleep? Why is it? And is it right? Exactly. I primed you. Right. Toshiko, how long was the priming time? You need to unmute your microphone.
Probably 25 minutes.
Seconds.
You did it at the very beginning of your presentation.
Okay, very interesting. Right. So that also happened, right? And also you worked with these for maybe 20 seconds on this slide alone. Yeah, right. So the priming time was very, very small, right? Now, if we consider our life, our living time, and about that. So who, and this is the next question I have for you here, who, I just give me 1 second here, show again the slides to it. Then who and what primed us to see games as stupid, silly activities children play only? And who and what primed us playing games that we should, when playing games, that we should not change rules and characteristics? And you remember I asked a pretty similar question to at the end of Toshiko's talk. I asked about actually who primes us that games are not relevant for learning. About that. Remembering the time we are spent with our parents, with our people, the people who educate us, the teachers, the professors, all these people who have strong influence on us, So how challenging it is now to really see, okay, now can I change my attitude towards that?
A short comment. In some
Please.
games, I think we are able to change rules if all of us agree that they could be changed in special way. So it brings some dynamics.
Dimitri, you're bringing a wonderful argument to the point, right? I once played a very, very simple game with my children, right? And I asked them, hey, what about changing the rules? What about taking some time and playing with the rules? And my children said, no, we don't want to do this. Huh? So it's a desire for safety, maybe also. It's a desire for having rules on it, right? So I have to give my children a so-called psychological safe zone and tell them it's okay to change the rule. And Dimitri, you're right, you need to agree. It's a communicative part on it. All the people need to agree.
Alexander, how many children do you have in your games? 1, 15?
It depends a little bit how you see children. I have real 2 children in the age of 10 and 12, but I have so-called children also in my trainings, right? Exactly. And here it is interesting, especially the serious scientists, to convince them, yeah, it's okay. We can also use games for learning. And then in addition, also we can change the games for learning.
Your interesting experience, and I have some stupid questions because they can bring you to some interesting mind. Do you use ice cream during your games? Do you ask them yes or no when they're eating ice cream?
I am very, very careful with rewards. Right? Rewards are a strong manipulator, and actually they are for the motivation actually not the best, right? Rewarding the people or punishing the people is actually, after Daisy and Ryan, after the self-motivation theory, on the so-called bread side, on the problematic side about that. So I am very careful with that. So Dimitri, very interesting question about that. But the point is, how do I change my attitude? How do I see games? And also me as an educator, as a trainer, as a coach, how do I bring people to change their attitude towards games? And the next thing is about how do I play with these games? And what you write in the chat is amazing. To give a good fundamental discussion here. Java is writing, perhaps we first attempt to understand the rules, right? Exactly, it's challenging. To establish what the rule model for the game is, and then we learn to master the rules and seek to take advantage of those rules to the greatest extent we can to win the game. The challenge happens when we may realize we did not understand the rules, or the rules get changed on us. Very good, great. Now, what I would like to do with you is now asking you, can you take a pen and a paper, and exactly a real pen and a real paper, because in our digital world, we are far too much working with all these digital tools. Can you take a real pen and paper and write down all the words you remember from the very first minute of this talk? It's a school test, by the way, so don't look at your neighbor. Okay, so if you don't have a pen and a paper, so then you just think about these words. Yeah, so relax about it. But and also here, if you came late a little bit, you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, it normally takes 20 seconds to remember the words. So how do we evaluate that? Well, in the chat, I have a link for you. It moves you to a Google Docs where you can now transfer the results of your pen and paper work on the digital document. Put an X into the line when you have that word on your list. Okay, what's now happening is that we have a so-called collaborative process. And in this case, we are generating a histogram in a collaborative manner. You see that the X's are your hits, right? And you see that there are already X's in there because I do not do this experiment once. No, I have done it already 400 times. And the last times you still see the results because I'm going to increase a little bit the amount of experiments. Now, think about that. What is now happening? Why are there red words and black words? And what is the reason for the difference that the red words apparently have been better remembered than the black words? If you agree on the results. And by the way, you just have to trust me that the results which are already in this document are coming from real experiments. But this is always in science. We give the people 100% trust in the beginning, and then we hope that it is not abused. Personal associations with red words. That's interesting. That's a good argument here about it. Came up twice. Okay. There is repetition, right? I said several words several times. And this means night, exactly, was verbatim repetition. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm writing into this document a so-called inference to that. Give some other suggestions about that. Experiment about required working hypothesis, right? What about your experiments here? My hypothesis is that I will tell you later. Personal associations with red words. That's quite critical because we don't know what kind of personal associations people have. I started with dream, right? Exactly. And this effect is called the primacy effect. I started with a dream, right? The primacy effect, and my last word was pillow, and this is called the recency effect. Recency effect. Very good. Something else? Orange is the surprise. Orange is a surprise. So it's an outlier. It's something which does not fit to all the words about sleep, and sleep is about the story, right? Snore is so-called effective redundancy because I have said it, and also I have written it into the chat. So that means if I want to say something very important, I say it and I write it into the chat. For example, in this Zoom world here. Now, the most interesting thing is bed. Why do people remember bed? Do you see it in the list? I haven't said it. People remember it because they make it up. Okay, it fits to the list of words, right? But they make it up. And now you can see these are all elements to work with memory. Actually, also I can use it here in this talk. How can I really make things staying in your mind, sticking to your brain? For that, I have to use the primacy effect and the recency effect, right? I have to use surprises, for example. I need to tell a story and have to connect to you, right? But I can never completely eradicate false memory. Now, this is something what we use in our presentation training. When we give people training for better presentations, on site or online. Do you have an idea where you could use this kind of memory game for your own purposes? Write it into the chat or hop on the mic as you like. Okay, so from the chat, you can read then every teacher, right? Every teacher in every teaching situation can think about how do I strategically use primacy, recency, storytelling methods, repetition, verbatim repetition, effective redundancy, and also how do I address false memory effects in my audience, right? We need to use that, and also we need not only know it, we need to strategically use it, right? There are very interesting points here in the chat. From Java, we see here also is use the patterns to promote particular messages, focus areas, or implicit intentions, right? Then salesmen and influencers, exactly. Strategy in this, right? About that. Now, can you think about maybe also changing the words about that? So this could also be a suggestion now to see this activity as a frame of that, right? And now thinking about, now I change the content of it. I change the words. Can you come up with an idea where it doesn't make sense maybe to change the words, but use the same activity?
Oh.
For example, in a leadership training, you can use a lot of words connected, let's say, buzzwords or maybe content words for the leadership training. And then you can use this game actually to let the people think about these keywords, maybe also repeat them again, but also going in a playful manner with it, right? And then also, again, think about or using the strategic implementation, then also for not only here in the presentation mode, but also as a leader about that. So what I would like you to tell you is I'm not so much an expert in how to define a game and how to define a frame game. What I would like to convey is to playfully actually go into the game, right, into the simulation. And then when you have a silent mode for yourself, think about, that could be interesting. Maybe I can use it for something else. Maybe I just change a little bit, or I may change completely and then use it for my purposes. And this is what I am doing currently a lot. So what I am working with is a lot of so-called Homo sapiens, a lot of people who know how it is, well, who knows it, and so on, and who also think that knowing is the best way, or just learning, the rote learning, for example, is the best way of becoming successful. As I turned into a facilitator, I went into a Homo faber, but now I'm more a Homo ludens, who actually sees the fantastic ability in playing and making a lot of errors. Playing games can be efficient learning. Not everyone sees it like that, but we don't learn just from playing itself. We need to have proper reflection on our experiences and on our biases, together with our biases, by the way. Now, develop reflection, there's a lot of debriefing of games and so on, but one way of reflection of games can be in seeing a game, as you just played it, as a frame game, and you change parts of it for your own purposes. And this is technically sometimes easy, but from the attitude, it's challenging. Now, I have to at the end of this to think about, or to say some thankful words for my mentor, Tyagi. I probably assume that you know this person, this wonderful person. I met him several years ago in 2016 for the first time. I played Barnga, this classical intercultural game in a trainer education. And after that, I told myself, what kind of person developed this brilliant game? I wanted to get to know this person, and I met him, and now we are friends. And he became a good mentor also of me. I'm so thankful that he told me something about what is a game, how to learn efficiently from games, and also how to see frame games in a different manner. Now, what is the outlook? What I'm currently doing? Now, I don't know if you know this game, Machikoro, or Toshiko, just tell me if I do not correctly pronounce it. But okay, good. Machikoro. It is a card game. It's a simulation to build a city, right? And here in Germany, it has won wonderful prizes. Wonderful prizes about that. I play it with my kids all the time. And what I'm now doing is thinking about how can I use parts of this game, and maybe also I have to ask for the license. This is also very important here, to develop a simulation game for assistant professors before tenure. That means, what do I have to do in the first 6 years, at my so-called probation time, where I have to tell the people, hey, here, I am a good professor, please give me tenure, wherever that is, what do I have to learn? What do I have to strategically implement? And how collaboratively I have to develop this? And I use the card game as a frame to step-by-step transfer it into the situation of becoming a professor. What is necessary? Strategy, publication, hiring people, dealing with budget, money, and all this, because these are my audiences in my trainings. So with that outlook, I would like to end my short provocation about frame games. Thanks a lot, Vinod, also for inviting me to this wonderful session. I enjoyed it also very much, coming from my holidays directly into the hotel. Vinod, you told me, do not focus so much on holidays. Stay also at work, and you're right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your participation. Thanks a lot for your wonderful comments also in the chat. I did not all address them, but you can, by the way, also save the chat and then also think later again about these wonderful messages about that. Thanks a lot.
Rupali? Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander, for a wonderful session. Now I invite all the panelists for asking the questions.
There is one question in Q&A, probably that's a fundamental question. Although Alex's presentation has covered that, but maybe we want a more straightforward, how shall I put it, an academic answer. Alex, we have a question for you from the chat box. It says, what is frame games?
Okay, good. So what I do here is a classical collaborative way also about that. My definition, and it's not the textbook definition of a frame game, is if you ask me, my definition of a frame game is that I use the so-called, I go into the meta level of a game. I understand what are the technicalities, the characteristics of it, right? And I then can change of these characteristics for whatever purpose about that. And there are explicit frame games published by, for example, you can also look in Tyaghi's book, where he explicitly shares games, learning games, for example, and tells the people, at this point, you can change something, here you can change something about that. My actually point was, let's do not get so dependent on Tyaghi, for example. Just see every game as something where we can change something. Dimitri, thanks a lot also for your serious point here in the chat. Thanks a lot.
To answer Dimitri's question, do you think it is possible to design a game that can help people forget things? Your games are about remembering and recalling, or the ones we played. Is it possible to design a game about forgetting?
First of all, why would you do that?
If you have had distress or pain or sorrow, and you need to move on, but that is holding you in place. So you can't move on.
Exactly. When, for example, rumination is bothering you, you want to forget.
Or extreme events like post-traumatic stress,
right?
That have had a really serious impact, and you do need to manage your remembering, I suppose, is a good way of sort of the different thing for forgetting. So that when you're managing your remembering, it's not coming back as if it was happening all over again, but that it fades, perhaps.
I just have to be careful. I don't want to tap too much into the so-called psychological domain here, because I'm not an expert in this. But if I go a little bit playfully into this, I can suggest two things. And the one I immediately do with you, because it's so simple and so easy. Elizabeth and all the others, please follow me. Can you touch your nose?
Yes.
Can you touch your forehead? Can you touch your right cheek? Can you touch your nose? Can you touch your chin? Okay, that's very easy. Everyone can do that. We see it all on the video. Now, when I say touch your nose, touch instead your chin. And when I say touch your right ear, touch your forehead. Okay? Touch your left cheek. Touch your nose. Touch your chin. It doesn't work already. It's anymore about that. So what does it tell us? What does it tell us? Because it's by far not an intellectual problem. You are very clever people here. Why people have problems in following these simple instructions?
It's habit. We've learned in English, we call the game Simon Says.
Yeah.
So we've learned to play Simon Says, and we know the two things. But when we do it here in this situation, everything's reversed because we're on screen. So if I had to think about, you said touch your right cheek, and I'm thinking, but in the screen you're touching your left cheek. So do you mean my right cheek or the one I can see on screen? So that being on screen adds that layer of visual complexity. But in general, it's hard to do the game. Sorry, Jawahar, after you.
Sorry, I was going to say, and you fundamentally, the rule changed, right? The mental model of what it was, you changed it. And we didn't have time for that to become the new rule. Right? Mm.
In Java, exactly. But this is one point deeper. It's not so much about having time to change the rule or to understand the rule. It's about that the old habit, the old program is so strong that it is difficult to forget.
Yep.
This is the point. So unlearning is tremendously challenging. It's not only learning complex things, it's actually unlearning so challenging about that. So Elizabeth, that was one element of this so-called forgetting things. It is challenging to forget. It's something which is difficult. And what I do in my trainings, for example, I will then ask the people, what do you want to forget in your life? What do you want to get rid of? What kind of habit you want to unlearn? Mm-hmm. A very deep question, by the way. Dimitri has a point.
Very interesting answer. Thank you. And in our Russian-Soviet experience, there was very interesting, and mostly for things that are not known now for the younger people, that Vygotsky and Luria and other great specialists and thinkers, they pointed many decades before that people usually copy the frame and put in old frame new content. And we could see it in many areas. So it is maybe one of the law how to pass your method, if the method is correct, but content will be new, like in the crossword, well-known thing, but content all time changes. And we have wonderful, our colleague, biologist, that she's studying, it is Yelizaveta Davidova. What is going on with our cognitive development during gaming? It is a dreadful question. we have no great answer on it, but it is still important because people want to know what changes really comes here or in other place of our body. And maybe when all pandemic will go away, we will try to ask her to give presentation in English, because it is possible to help to each person, like you have all of participants, 73 persons, are interested to know what happens with me after I participate in Alexander's seminar. And what happens about 5 years of learning in this or that university and so on. It is only a question, but we're trying to get answer on it, because some things that you give us, and it reminds us exercise of our Elizaveta, what kind of memory you are addressing. Visual memory, immediate memory, or hearing memory, and so on. A great field of things that could be checked and even sometimes measured.
And we are right now in the, thanks a lot, Dimitri, for this wonderful contribution here. And we are right now in a so-called starting situation. We just have started, for example, communicating over Zoom. And Zoom is, by the way, this is not the end here. It will develop. And we need to understand actually what it makes with us. Having cameras open, having cameras closed, using chat in parallel, using chat whatever in coherence or using it in parallel, using visual and also written communication at the same time. This is to me, still an attention catastrophe. And we have to find our new rules to make this very efficient. And we are right, that's my opinion, we are right now to start with it, and by far not at the end.
I agree.
About this. And this makes it so interesting. That makes a fantastic adventure. And it simulates, and this is the interesting thing about that, it simulates adaptation. It simulates how do we adapt on this new situation. Still, a lot of people think that we will come back to normality after COVID-19 is over. This will not happen anymore. There is no normality anymore. There's a new way of it. And for sure, it will be very nice in maybe 1 or 2 years if we can shake hands and drink something together or eat something together. But right now we have to profit and we have to learn and develop from this online communication. The question is how, and Dimitri, you said it, how intense do I make it that the people really take something out of it? Yeah.
Very interesting. You put a great joke in your reflection. And I start to smile because we're expecting that we were normal before pandemic, and maybe we'll return again back to normal. But we were not normal before pandemic.
Thanks a lot.
Is there any other question from panel members?
Thank you, Alexander. It's been fun.
Thank you. So it was really a wonderful, knowledgeable session, and sir discussed very well about games and frame games. Now I request founder of Mentis, Dr. Vinod Damblekar sir, to propose words of thanks.
Thank you.
Right. May I just add something about that? If you need some information about the games I have played, yeah, for example, if you want to know the script, if you want to have the description of it, write me an email. I'm gonna send you a PDF. You can read it through again and can maybe also change it then for your own purposes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I can't see you.
Yes, sir. Vinod sir, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rupali. Alex, it was a fantastic evening or afternoon here for us. I read about play several times, but this is the first time I've experienced play the way you have described it. That was fun, really great fun. This would not have been possible for had we not come together for this event. So many people have come together and made this success. Many people have, my thanks are due to, well, the recency issue. The most recent are also the most repetitive. So my thanks are first to Elizabeth, JP, and of course, Dimitri. How can you forget Dimitri for asking those repetitive questions and clarifying things that for all of us, and we understood more because you understood those, answered those questions. I hope we'll hear more questions like that in the future. My thanks are also due to the personnel, the officers, the teachers, the faculty, etc., from Sri Vaishnava University who have organized this webinar. This is the 26th webinar that we have had. That means we've done 26 of them since October 2020. That's a fantastic track record. And it's a fantastic opening and a pathway to a conference next month, which I hope all of you will attend some way or the other. Finally, I know you mentioned Tyagi, but I don't know how many of you know. We didn't want to announce it so far, but Tyagi will be our keynote address at the next month's conference, which I hope all of you will attend some way or the other. Thank you, Alex. It was fun. And I think you took us along many different roads, making us think deeper about our biases, our confirmation biases, and about sleep and dreams and mattresses and lots of newish words which we had not thought about. I hope we'll be able to listen to you again. It has been fun knowing you, listening to you. So for everybody who's been here today, thank you. We hope to see you again next week. And the last one is on the 21st of August. So we are going to have 28 webinars under ISAGA 2021. And of course, next month we'll have the conference. We're all excited, a little nervous, lots of things coming into play and all that. Thank you. Good day, good evening, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good night.
Elizabeth. Good to see you all the time.
Yes. Good to see
Toshiko
you.
and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being with us for the webinar. See you soon.
Thank you,
for the
JB.
next webinar.
Thanks,
Good
Vinod.
night.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, JB. Thanks, Toshiko. Where are you? Have you gone? Alex, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a ton. And I hope we'll see you again some other time. I'm not going to let you go away that easily. Dr. Dimitri Kautaradze, thank you for coming. That was a surprise today that you come. And I hope you'll be here for the last two sessions, the next week, this time, and the week after that.
It was my pleasure, and I just have to warn you, next time you're going to invite me and we're going to have again fun together, right? Yeah. Fun is just a collateral damage of all these activities.
I think it's the main damage, not collateral. It is the first one that gets hit.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but it was a wonderful round, and I'm looking forward to the ISAGA conference. This is really interesting. I hope I can join as many talks and workshops as possible.
I wish you could come, and I'm not going to let you go. Like I said, easily. You will participate. I hope we'll have you here, perhaps in later sessions as well. We have a lot to learn from you. You had the chemistry right. Must be your chemistry background did all this damage as one.
Yeah. Also the chemistry actually is the fundamental thing about that. But I think it's what I enjoy very much is the beginner's mind, and I'm seeking more and more beginning situations and to learn from this kind of session here, this kind of people, this wonderful, this is really great.
Thank you. That's a very quiet, reminder to all of us to be more curious about the things around us. That is perhaps a thing that most trainers, most facilitators don't ask of our learners, to be more curious. it's important because look at the jump you made from your chemistry. Maybe your PhD was in chemistry. Now you're into helping people understand. It's a huge jump. You have jumped from Venus to Mars.
And hopefully it will not end soon.
Okay, thank you then. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Dr. Alexander. Thank you.
Thank you, Rizwan.
Thank you, Rupali
One
ma'am.
more-
Thank you, Vinod
Thank you,
sir.
One more
Thank you,
important
Rupali. Thank you,
announcement
Jagasi.
to all the
Yes, yes,
participants.
yes.
I request all participants to please fill the feedback form as mentioned in the chat box. Please, for getting each certificates. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupali ma'am.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you.
Good.
Something is wrong with my setup. Okay. Anyway, we're at the end of the
Bye-bye.
session. Thanks a lot.
I will
Thank you.
say
Thank you. Bye.
goodbye.
Hi. Thank you.
Namaste. Bye bye.
Namaste. Thank you then. Dankeschön.
Dankeschön zurück.
Dankeschön.
Ciao.
Okay.